Hey everybody, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today. I have a new layout for the Hip Kit Club, and again, I'm using the 2016 December kits. Now this cut file, if it's not already loaded, it's going to be soon. It's one of the new ones for January, designed by Jessica, who's also a design team member, and it is a group of butterflies. It is so pretty. As soon as I saw it, I had to use it. And I cut it on this really beautiful watercolor striped pattern paper from Pink Paisley, the Take Me Away collection by Paige Evans. And I just wanted a lot of color. I wanted to use this as a big background design. There are a bunch of tiny little pieces that you have to scrape off your mat, but I worried about that later. I had to use this. It was just too pretty. And this is sort of my idea here. I'm going to use white. I know I said I wasn't going to use white, and here I am using it again as my background. And I've got 3 small pictures of my daughter, and she was just sitting on the bench out on our patio one day, and just her hair was blowing in the breeze, and she was kicking her head back and laughing and looking at the sky and the birds, and it was just one of those cute moments where I just kept snapping pictures of her. So what I'm going to do is do a light trace around all of the butterflies with a pencil so I know where I want them, because I'm going to come in with some clear gesso here in a minute and go over some of the paper before I put on my shimmers paints. So the clear gesso is a little bit different than white. It does the same thing, but it's a little thinner, and it's this brand that I use. It's grittier, so it's got more of a texture when it dries, and I like both of them, but on white paper you can't really even see it. It's clear, and so it doesn't really matter to me on white paper, so I tend to use the clear. So now I've pulled out some shimmers from my stash. I'm trying to match the colors in the butterflies, and these are creamies, I believe, and that in the bottle is a Vibes Sweetheart, and I'm just mixing and matching, trying to get that perfect pink shade that's over on the left of the butterflies. And I'm trying to bring some of the pink over to the right, because there's no pink in the right of the butterflies. And so this takes me a little bit of time. I just kind of play around with the packaging technique, and I do some splatters, use my brush a little bit just to kind of scatter, not scatter, but smooth the paint around, I guess you could say. You know, I just want it to look kind of messy and splotchy. Now this one turns out to be a little too light. This is another shimmers from my stash, very, very light yellow, and I didn't really wait that long for it to activate with the water, so I went ahead and added a little bit of a golden color. We got that a few color kits ago, Glorious Day. And I'm just trying to bring some yellow over to the left, and I decide that's still too light, so I come in with the colorings No Yoking and just mix and match. And that's the fun thing about having multiple types of paints, is you can, you know, combine them to create the exact shade of the color that you want. So that's kind of the look I'm going for, with just a little bit of watercolor peeking out from behind the butterflies in matching colors. This is the purple that I've been using pretty much all this month, because purple is pretty, you know, there's a lot of it in this collection, or in this kit this month. And so I wanted to add some of the purple. I believe this is an Inklings. Very pretty purple. And then of course I have to add my aqua. I use this color frequently. It's Well Blue Me Down. And I like combining the packaging with the brush just to kind of help it, because I feel like with the brush alone I can't get this look that the packaging can give you. The brush has such a fixed edge, whereas the packaging gives you this splotchy look like I have here. And it just depends on the look that you want, or the look that you like. And also, since I added the gesso, I can bring in more liquid and a little more water to help blend these, because I know the paper is protected and it's not going to rip very easily. So most of that is dry. I love how that looks. Looks kind of strange without the butterflies, but once you put the butterflies on, you can kind of see how that's going to look. And I decide that that's enough so far, and I like how it looks. So I'm going to glue the butterflies down. That takes a little bit of time because there's so many little open spots on the butterflies. So now I decide that this needs some stitching, and so like I said before, I'm always inspired by Paige Evans and her gorgeous hand stitching, and I know so many other scrapbookers have been doing this a lot in the last several months. And it does take time and patience, but it's so worth it. It always looks so pretty in the end. And I just take an old thumbtack. I don't have a special paper piercer, so I just poke little holes and I just eyeball it. And I went around the entire cut file there. And now I've pulled out my floss, my embroidery thread, and I'm going to try to stitch coordinating colors on the butterflies. So I'm going to start with this light teal color and hit all the areas that are light teal. And this really didn't take too long, but I don't mind it. I know I've said this a lot. I don't mind doing the hand stitching. I don't mind doing the fussy cutting. Sometimes it's fun to just have a mindless task to do where you don't have to really use your brain to think about it too much. Because sometimes, you know, coming up with a title or deciding which paper to use is stressful enough. And doing something like this, you don't have to stress about it. Okay, I'm finished with it now. You can see I've got all the right colors on the right areas. Yellow, purple, pink, teal, yellow. Oh, the back is a hot mess. I glued all the little, or I stuck all the pieces down with washi tape. And then I go all the way over to the right with the coral color. And so then I realized that I couldn't tuck my pictures underneath the butterfly wings because I just stitched everything down. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Now I'm going to have to change my idea. I totally forgot that I wanted to tuck the pictures under the cut file. So yeah, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to add some tissue paper behind the pictures and try to figure out how I want to arrange them. And I'm going to do something like you see right here. I'm going to have the two on the left because I know I've said this before, but she's looking up and to the right. And so I want her on the left, so it looks like she's looking up and across and looking up at the butterflies or up at the top picture. In the top picture, she's looking straight on, and so it doesn't matter where that picture goes. So I'm just playing around with the embellishments. These words are from the exclusive die cut pack that Kim Watson designed, and these are the pink paisley sequins. I play around with them for a little bit, but I wind up not using them. I was pulling the yellow ones and the purple ones off, but I decided to put those on hold for now, and I want to add a little bit of something behind the pictures. So I go back to this Take Me Away paper, and I try to pull a little square of each color that I've already got going in the butterflies. And I'm going to use these as small layers behind each of those pictures. And I know these are going to match perfectly because both of these papers came from the same collection, and so I know they're going to match and coordinate really nicely. And I just want a little bit of color peeking out from behind each picture. I didn't want it to be distracting or, you know, make it too much or too busy. But I did want to add a little something something behind those pictures. I need a purple, and so I'm going to go through this purple. Even though I've already used a piece of it, I'm still going to use it. So I'm really glad I decided to hand stitch on this. I hadn't even thought about it at first, but once I had all the butterflies glued down, it just sort of seemed like the next thing to do when I looked at it. I thought, those butterflies need an edge. And so I'm glad I did that. Now I just use my little edge distressor tool to kind of ruffle up the edges of those little background papers. And I really didn't want to do too much embellishing because I feel like the butterflies are sort of the star of this page. And I didn't want to do a lot to cover them up because I'm already covering up some of it with my pictures, and I didn't want to cover up too much of it. I do add some foam behind my pictures to give them a little bit of lift, and there's my giant Ziploc bag of thread. Y'all know I love thread. I use it a lot. So yes, I have a lot of colors. Every time I go to Walmart, I buy like 1 or 2 colors that I don't already have. So I have quite a collection, but I do use it. And that's what I'm going to do here is just loop up some thread in coordinating colors and add it here and there. I've got some yellow, light purple, light mint, and that salmon color, coral. And I'm just trying to put thread in one color that's not on top of the same color. So I definitely want to use these words. I've already played with them once and took them off. And I like the pop of black that they give because I do have black and white pictures, and so I felt like it was okay because the background is kind of light and airy, and I didn't want to darken things up, but I like the contrast, and I think they stand out quite a bit. So I know the pictures are not going to move. That's where they're going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those down and make sure all the thread is glued down. And the pictures are kind of crooked. I want them kind of crooked. The butterflies aren't straight, so I didn't want my pictures straight. So I decided I need something different for a title because those 3 words are good, but they weren't necessarily a title. And so I go very generic with this. I could not think of a very clever title, and it's just going to be Little Moments. And so I'm going to use the coordinating thickers that go with this collection. Again, the Take Me Away collection from Pink Paisley. And these thickers are the perfect colors because I've already got these colors going in the background. And they kind of blend in. So I didn't want the title to compete with the script words. And so I like how that looks. And I'm going to use the word little here in a minute to complete the title. But I do use these cute little flowers from the Amy Tangerine white foam thicker sheet. There's only 2 of them. I wish there was 3, but I used the 2 that were there. And I like how that looks. I know I've got a lot of white going on, but I like the way that turned out. And I wanted to add another little something extra to those white thicker flowers. And so I do a couple of fussy cut leaves from that exclusive paper with the black and white flowers, just to add little extra detail there. And I'm not going to make you watch me fussy cut because it takes me a while to go in and out of all those little leaves. But I like how that looks. It just gives that little flower cluster something different. I'm going to use that above Moments. And I feel like I've covered up enough of the butterflies. I don't do too much more. You can still tell they're butterflies, but I wanted to leave the rest of it open. So the last thing I'm going to do is come in with some of these, I believe they're Echo Park enamel dots. They match perfectly, so I'm going to add just a couple of those here and there. And I guess my title's not too generic. I mean, it's not creative in any way, but that's my favorite thing to scrap, are little moments with my kids. And this was just one of those cute little moments. And she still had her pajamas on. And she went outside and sat down on the patio and just was having a great old time. And I was like, oh, get the camera. You're smiling and laughing. Get the camera. And it was just fun. So it was one of those little moments. So I guess the title's appropriate. These are some of the little acrylic stars that were in the, oh, I can't remember, one of the kits. The last thing I'm going to do is draw in some lines and add my journaling just a little bit underneath that top picture. And then I'm going to come in with the colorings. No, those aren't colorings, shimmerings. And it's the concrete. We got that in this month's color kit, just to bring in some of that gray. And that's going to wrap it up. There is the final layout. I love how it turned out. I think the butterflies are so pretty. So be on the lookout for that cut file. Jessica designed it, and it is so pretty. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun to do, and I really enjoyed the hand stitching. I love how the butterflies turned out on that pattern paper and all the beautiful coordinating colors that go with it. So let me know if you have any questions or want to know anything about the products or any of the techniques or anything at all. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you, and I will see you guys again in the next video. Have a great day.